This past Sunday, the Detroit Lions win their 11th when they're 10th and 11th. Yeah, 11th. I said it right the first time. My apologies. You know what I'm saying? It didn't sound right, but it is true. They won their 11th in the row, and every Wednesday we get a chance to talk to this man right here about how the Detroit Lions are winning. Fox 2's own Dan Miller. What's up, Dan?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Great. Doing real good, man. You see, we had a little back wall for you. Usually it's the Lions players or it's Dan Campbell, but today I said let's put the other Dan in there. So we got Dan Miller in the middle of Jared Goff and Dan Campbell.
I see that. Look at that. Those three. I said to Maz earlier, which one of those paychecks is not like the other?
That's a damn good one. Dan, you've had almost 10 days off. You know what I'm saying, with a Thursday to a Sunday. How's your weekend been? What did you do on Sunday?
Weekend was nice, man. I just chilled out and was hoping we'd get a little help against the Vikings. Falcons didn't do anything there. Hoping we get a little help against Philadelphia. Carolina was close, didn't get any help there, but it's always nice just to kick back, watch some football, watch conference championship games and chill and know your work's behind you and you got a little bit of time.
Dan, we can get into the Green Bay game, but I think the big thing for us is people coming back, players coming back. We had some players practice today, and we got some players practicing tomorrow. Just talk a little bit about some of those guys coming back and what to expect for Lions fans in the lineup this week coming up.
Yeah, when you got Buffalo coming up, look, when you got the stretch coming up, it's huge. But when you got Buffalo coming up and you got to handle Josh Allen, if you can get Levi back out there, if you can get Pascal back out there and Aleem can get out of protocol, that's huge. We'll see if Reeder's able to go, but those seem to be the guys that were back out at practice this week. It's all hands on deck. And look, you got a month left in this season. You're trying to protect the number one seed in the NFC. You're trying to protect the NFC North. And you're going to have to, look, if you've won 11 straight, and basically gotten no wiggle room from Minnesota, you realize, man, we're going to have to handle this ourselves. So they just got to keep doing it, keep winning, and finding a way to handle their own business. And clearly you're not going to be able to hope for help from anybody else or expect it, and just keep doing what you're doing. But getting some of those guys back is huge. That was a heck of a win against Green Bay. But is that sustainable, running guys out there that haven't been here for a month and not having your top performers? Man, as you get late in the season, that gets more difficult.
Dan, did you have a chance to watch the Buffalo game on Sunday? I rewatched it again last night against the Rams. What's your thought on them? They're fighting for the number 2 spot with the Steelers. We're all Steeler fans this week. They play the Eagles.
Yeah, look, they're really good. And this quarterback is playing as well as he's played since he's come into the league. He's able to run it. He's able to throw it. He's got some weapons. He's just playing with a confidence. We've seen him kind of be up and down a little bit at times during his career and have some disappointments, but he just looks so confident in what he's doing right now. And he is such a problem when he gets out of that pocket. He's so big. He's fast. He'll run through you. He can run around you if he has to. This is just one of those challenges that you got to figure out a way to deal with. And he's going to be a problem for people going forward. And obviously, look, defensively, they had some problems against Stafford. Matthew lit them up. But I don't know how often they're going to have a day like that. Can you count on a 44-42 game? Every time you think you know in this league, it ends up being 17-13, and it goes the other way. So I just think you got to be ready again. If there's one thing this team has done, guys, it is figure out a way to win, whatever it is, low-scoring, high-scoring, shootout, come back in the second half, whatever it is. That's been the secret sauce to winning 11 games in a row. They just got to figure it out again against Buffalo. I don't know what it's going to take. Be clean. Don't turn it over. Don't give Allen short fields. Find a way to get it done on Sunday, whatever it takes.
Dan, the man, always a pleasure. And, we talked to Dave Burkett earlier in the week, and I asked him about the defense because although they threw up 31 points on us, I felt like the defense played a very good game. You were getting performances from people we ain't even heard of. Just the fact that you have so many players stepping up that are new to this situation or are just being brought in because of the injuries. And then when you just look at just how they made Jordan Love uncomfortable the whole entire game. Can you just speak to the job that AG is doing with this defense, and what were some of your takeaways from the Packers game and how the defense played?
Man, it was amazing. Look, when you're talking about 4 guys that have been here for less than a week coming in and playing, and then you did the same thing with David Long earlier, you did the same thing with Zeke Turner earlier, even with Za'Darius, coming in a week and a half after he got here to play. It's I just don't think you can say enough about the job those guys have done to hold this defense together. And, yeah, they got a couple of stops when they needed them. And when they needed to get a third down stop, Zeke Turner makes a big play in the open field against Jordan Love. So I just think the one thing that Dan Campbell and AG do or don't do is lower the bar when these injuries hit. There's not one time where they say, okay, we're just going to make do. They expect the same performance from whoever's in there as they do from their potential Pro Bowlers or guys that they thought were going to be playing high leverage snaps. It's amazing when you think about the fact that if you go back to that Seattle game in week 2, the healthiest their defensive line has been, because that's the week that DJ played for the first time.
Yeah.
8 guys on their 2 deep. The top 8 guys were missing in the second half of that game against Green Bay. That's stunning that you're able to still find a way to win. But you know what? They've been kind of doing it all year with the number of guys that they've lost on that defense, and I just don't think you can credit, AG and all of his assistants enough for what they've done, because it's not easy to find a way to piece that thing together when you got guys that barely know each other's names.
Dan, I'm glad you brought up Big Z. I had a chance to run into him the other day at an establishment. Super, super, super nice guy. Wants to be here, loves the city of Detroit, loves to welcome me. And, Stick made a good point yesterday. Yes, we're going to welcome him, and yes, he's going to love to welcome because it's the number 1 team in the NFL that needs him right now. Where are you with his gameplay through 4 games? I know it's too early to talk about next year and Hutch and what they could be, but, 4 games, what do you think of Big Z?
I think he's been a factor. I think if you look at the numbers that he's put up since he's been here, you can clearly tell that he's impacting the passer on the other side. And not every time does he get there for a sack, and not every time does he register a hurry or a hit or something like that. But if the quarterback knows he's there and the quarterback knows he's coming, and that changes even for an instant how he wants to throw the ball or when he wants to throw the ball, that's him having an impact. And I think we know that with this secondary, man, if you can get that quarterback to flinch just a little bit, these guys are ball hawks back there, and they're going to make plays. And I think he has been a major factor since he's been here. And I got Lomas and TJ in there, and they're calling his name out, as impacting the offense and as having a positive impact on this Lions defense. I think, look, man, that was a huge move to get him. Yep. And even bigger now with the injuries that they've suffered and seeing guys go down and knowing that you need somebody that can be in there making plays. So I love what I've seen from him. I think he's only going to get better as the talent around him gets better and some of these guys start to come back from injury. And you've got to have a guy like him where you're coming down the stretch and you're playing games against Josh Allen, games against the Vikings coming up with Sam Darnold at the end of the season. Who knows what that thing's going to be mean. And just a guy that's been around this league and gives you that experience. I think it's huge.
Dan Miller's Weekly Drive presented by Les Stanford. Dan, I want to switch gears just a little bit with you here. Lions fans and Lions players' lives have changed around this team this year. A lot of teams that the family, hey, you're not watching the game on Thanksgiving. Now those same families are asking Dad and Grandpa for jerseys for Christmas. We're seeing Sonic and Knuckles getting opportunities, for sponsorships. The whole thing's blowing up. I'm curious, what has changed for you with all the notoriety and attention and success that is following the Lions team right now?
I think like anybody else in this business, when your team is winning, you get more attention. People are more positive about what you do. Look, I've been blessed to do what I do and work with a great team, and we've always had great support from the fans. But you can feel it's different when you're winning 11 games in a row, or last year when you're going through the playoffs. Look, we're taking the same ride as these fans, and I think they feel that. And I think they feel the camaraderie that we have going through this together. We're up there calling the games for this team, but they know we're rooting for this team as well. So everything's better when you're winning. Everything. There's nothing that's worse when you're winning except for maybe availability of tickets. It's just, there's just a positivity around the city and around this team right now that lifts everything having to do with this team, from merchandise to sales, to sponsorships, to radio broadcasts, to radio broadcasters, to, the people putting stuff out on their website. Everything gets lifted because there becomes more of an appetite for what we all do, for what you guys do around this team. Anything you guys put out having to do with the Lions, I'm sure does better numbers now than it did when this team wasn't winning. So it's it's a byproduct of this team playing well. Everything gets better and gets lifted up and magnified, and people just want more and more of it.
Hey, Dan, there's a lot of teams chirping about the Lions. Green Bay, obviously. You heard Tucker Kraft actually say this week, yeah, I missed a couple of my assignments last week because I was trying to go after a guy. You saw the chippiness in that game. The Bear game was chippy. You look at the other teams in the league. Minnesota had a guy speak out. I'm sick and tired of hearing about this Lions team. Then you got Philly. And Philly last year kind of imploded. This year, they have something going in that locker room. It's a dynamic.
Yeah, except for their quarterback and their best receivers seem to hate each other.
That's what I mean.
100%.
That's what I was bringing up. What's going on with the Eagles, and will it nip them again like it did last year?
I mean, look, they're really good. That's a really good football team, and they got a bunch of young guys on their defense that are starting to figure it out, playing better, more impactful up front, getting after the passer. So they're going to be a problem. And I think as you look at this thing, kind of in the back of your mind, you're thinking you'd rather get them at Ford Field than have to go to Philadelphia. That's one of the reasons that you want to keep winning. But look, that's a veteran team with a lot of guys that have been there and a lot of guys now that are all those Georgia kids they drafted, 27 of them that seem to be now making plays for them. And I just see them as getting better and being a major factor in the NFC. You know, as far as the rest of the stuff, I don't know, man. It seemed like maybe we got chippy with teams back in the day when they were in a better place than we were, and we wanted to be where they were. And I think it's just it just happens when people are chasing you and get a little bit frustrated. And, you know, this stuff about the referees and whatever, I mean, look, man, we've been on the other side of that. We were there when Devin Taylor got called for a bogus face mask. Yep. We were there when Trey Flowers got called for a bogus, illegal use of hands or hands to the face. Mm-hmm. And we've been on the other side of that. And there are times where you have to overcome that. And when you don't overcome it, then you're going to blame it. So I get it. Green Bay's a really good team. If the Lions play them again, it's going to be a 50-50 game. They're really, really good. And we've just been in the right place to get them twice, and we've earned it by playing better than them in those two games. But, I just don't put a whole lot of stock in this, man. I don't get it. I don't get when people talk after they lose. I don't get it when somebody says, oh, the best team may not have won today. I'll never understand that. And if Tucker Kraft got taken off a couple of assignments, and I didn't really read that quote or see that, then that's on him, and he'll be better next time. But look, the Lions are earning everything they're getting, and I don't think anybody doubts how good this football team is and the adversity that they've dealt with to get where they are. But you know what? It's kind of fun to be on the other side of that when people start moaning about the officials giving the Lions breaks. It seems silly considering everything we've been through, but you know what? That probably means you're doing pretty well.
It's kind of like a team making a rule that you can't plant fags because it creates this thing talking about the Ohio State. Like same thing. Ohio State didn't have a problem when they were whooping Michigan's, you know what? Neither did Green Bay nor the Vikings, and now here you sit, scared. People start chirping then when they're nervous, when they're scared, when they fear the other side.
Nobody talked about it. The only thing anybody talked about when we weren't very good was Ndamukong Suh was dirty. I mean, when did people ever moan about the Lions or act like the Lions were, something less than tolerable? I mean, people only care about you when they realize you're the one they're shooting at. You're the one they're going for. You're the one that they have to overcome. And again, I'm not taking anything away from those teams as teams. Minnesota's really good. Green Bay's really good. Yeah. And we may have to deal with them again. But as far as all this other stuff, man, it's decided on the field. That's all it is. And I'm not buying the officials thing. We've been there too many times.
Yeah, they're both well coached, just as the Detroit Lions are. We had a conversation last Wednesday. We talked about Dan Campbell, talk about him taking that next step. Well, last week, he went for it 5 times. He got it 4 out of 5 times. He, in his mind, knew, I'm not going to kick this field goal. Talk about Dan Campbell, where his mindset was and where you were with the 4-5 last Thursday against Green Bay.
I mean, look,
on 4th down,
the one from the minus 30-yard line, that one you're kind of like, I don't know about that. That one kind of, I think we were all kind of like, that seems like a significant risk. The one at the end of the game is obviously a risk as well, but I can also see his point in not wanting to give the football back when you got a defense that's being held together by sticks and glue and you've lost guys and you're trying not to give them the football back. And the worst case scenario at that point is you probably go to overtime or else they take over the ball and we'll see what they do with it. But I just think, look, it's always going to be a source of conversation when a head coach goes for fourth down. Less so when you get it, more so when you don't. But you have to look at it in its totality. Look, we know who he is. We know what he does. We know how he plays it. He trusts his offense, and when his offense is on the field, more often than not, he's going to try not to take the ball out of their hands. And I'll go back to what I bring up all the time, which is, you know, people always go back to that NFC Championship game, but conveniently people forget that they went for fourth down once against the Rams in the playoffs and scored a touchdown. And went for fourth down once against the Bucs in the playoffs and scored a touchdown. And had they not scored those and settled for 3, maybe they don't even win those games and get to the NFC Championship game. It's a big picture conversation, not just a small picture. I'm going to pick this one fourth down and go after it. I think the league seems to be doing more of that than we've ever seen them do before. And maybe that's Dan Campbell, you know, leading the way and teams saying, you know, I'm going to trust my offense too. So this is who he is, fellas. It's not changing. And it is his belief in those players. And when he says he looks out at that field and those guys look back at him and they're not coming off the field, I think it tells you about the confidence he has in them and the belief they have in his decisions that they can get it done.
Dan, we know you have a hard out. I want to ask you one last quick question. They do play the Buffalo Bills this week, who are one of the better teams in the league. I know you're going to side with the Detroit Lions. What gives the Lions the edge over the Buffalo Bills, who have Josh Allen, who's MVP, probably number 1 right now?
Yeah, look, I think this is a 50-50 game. I really do. I think it's going to be which team can play better on that day, which team can force the other team to make mistakes. This game started as a 3-point. I think it's down to 1.5 points now, and that's probably where it should be. I want to see, Braylon, who comes back for the Lions. If they can get Pascal and Onwuzurike and a lean back, that's huge because you need to be stout up front against this team and figure out a way to slow down Allen. But I honestly feel like this is a game that somebody probably is going to find a way to lose. Somebody's going to make some mistakes. Somebody's going to turn the ball over. Somebody's going to give somebody a short field, and that can end up being the difference. But I go into this game thinking it's one of those between two of the absolute best in football, and it's the kind of game you circle during the regular season because you think maybe with a lot of work to do, we could see this game again down the line.
Dan, that somebody won't be the Detroit Lions because I trust Dan Campbell and not Sean McDermott. That's what I'm rolling with. Appreciate you, big guy, as always.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're the best.
Thank you, buddy.